Welcome back to How to Cake It. I'm Yolanda, and this week I caked a friend, Pusheen. This was a fan request. You guys wanted it, so I caked her. And she brought me a cupcake. Isn't that nice? Nobody ever brings me cake. They just assume I always have it. I feel a connection. To make this cake, I baked 15.5 pounds of my ultimate vanilla batter, and I dyed it a lovely pink. I thought she'd like that.
I find cats really annoying, by the way.
It could have something to do with the fact that a cat once almost clawed your eyeball out.
Yeah.
Just saying. Once my cakes are baked, cooled, and chilled, I remove them from their pans, and then I level them with a ruler and a serrated knife, and I also cut the caramelization off the bottom. So I have 2 bigger rectangular cakes and 1 smaller. I'm going to cut the 2 bigger rectangles in half so that I get 2 rectangles from each. Now I have a total of 5 layers of cake.
I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve.
You got that? Okay, good. Now I'm going to call in Sir Squeeze to help me simple syrup all of these cake layers. Sir Squeeze seemed a little upset that there was somebody cuter than him in the kitchen. He also mentioned to me, he left me a note and said, how come I don't have a party hat? So we're gonna have to order a party hat for Sir Squeeze.
Oh my god.
I know, he's a total diva. It's now time to fill and stack this cake with Italian meringue buttercream. I know, eh? I start with the smallest rectangle cake I baked on the bottom, spread some buttercream on top, and then I stack my 4 half rectangles on top, all filled with butter.
Oh no!
I'm sorry. Are you falling asleep?
No, when she heard about the buttercream,
She just couldn't help herself. She was like, Italian meringue? Yes, Italian meringue. It's that good. Once my cake is chilled, the buttercream is set up, it's time to start carving Pusheen. And she was kind enough to model for me. She was actually a very gracious model, unlike some watermelons I've met. You know what I mean? Okay, well, what can I say about shaping Pusheen? As Orhan said, she's not super shapely. So I just focused on sort of tapering. She's definitely more narrow at the top and a little wider at the bottom. I don't mean wide in a bad way, I promise. We are almost at 4 million subscribers here at How to Cake It, and we are so excited. Once we hit 4 million, we're gonna have a live stream party right here on YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't already and help us get to 4 million so we can throw this party. Oh no, is there gonna be confetti at this party?
most likely 4 million of them.
No! And where I really wanted to pay attention was to carve her ears, because this isn't a cake where I'd want to make separate ears and have a seam.
She's growing on me.
Is she?
Yeah.
You like her now?
Yeah.
You might get another cat.
No, I'm making a Pusheen toy.
Okay, you can take her home. You want to go home with the How to Cake It hottie? See how she fainted? Look at her. She cannot believe it. Okay, I'm crumb coating my cake with more Italian meringue buttercream and then placing it in the fridge to chill. Now that my crumb coat is chilled, I'm going to ice the cake one more time and chill it again. I'm sure you've already noticed, I'm sure it's already in the comments, but this is the first How to Cake It episode ever where I am wearing nail polish. And I had nail polish on because I returned home from Connie's wedding and it was shellac and I didn't have time to remove it because we got right back to filming. And the whole time I felt really weird, the whole time. Because even just looking at my own hands, it was like an out-of-body experience. Like I was like, who is making this cake with these painted nails? Yeah, it was really weird. My icing is chilled, we've discussed my nail polish, we're over it, and now it's time to cover this cake in this lovely gray fondant. I decided to cover her like the back and then the front. So she does have a seam along the side, just like this doll does. But I thought it was the best way to cover her because if I were to roll a whole sheet of fondant and drape her, because she's so narrow, I would have had all of this excess fondant. I don't want that. And then I use a sharp paring knife to trim the fondant all along the side. I don't know why I'm showing you, there's footage. Okay? If it's warm while you're doing this, you can chill the cake for a bit before you trim. I find sometimes if the fondant is... I'm sorry, I know, it's boring, but I'm trying to tell them how I did this. Because when you're cutting fondant at a seam, if you cut too much away, you'll be left with a gap. And if you don't cut enough away, yes, you can always cut more, but you might cut through the fondant underneath and then have like cut lines. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't want either one of those things to happen, so I'm being very slow and careful. Now that Pusheen is fully covered, I'm just gonna smooth out the seam as best I can. Yes, the seam hider will be here a bit later. I'm gonna put Pusheen back in the fridge to chill and let the fondant harden, and in the meantime, I'm going to roll out some more fondant nice and thin for all of her details. Like her eyes and her little mouth and her cute little tongue, and I guess these are whiskers. Well, they're not eyelashes, because they're not coming right out of her eye. These are her whiskers.
Where's her mouth?
Here, she's smiling, or she's about to take a bite of a cupcake, one of those things. So I roll out all the colors I need for her details. I need brown, I need some pink, and then I need some gray for her stripes on the back and the stripes on her tail. I'm also gonna roll out some white fondant nice and thin, and that will be the icing on Pusheen's little cake. I'm gonna place all of these rolled out fondant pieces in my fridge to chill, and while they're chilling, I'm going to hide the seam.
She's pretty.
Seam hide. Oh, she's like, you're boring me. Hide my seam already. Sorry, I'm sorry. They've seen me do it a million times, but if you wanna know, I just take a little of the same gray fondant that I covered you with, and I mix in some clear food grade alcohol until it's like a paste consistency, almost like royal icing. And then I use a small spatula to put the paste over the seam, and I want to apply a thin layer and sort of remove it at the same time, if that makes sense. So I put it on, and then I also use the edge of the spatula to remove it. I'm just trying to fill in the little gap. For Pusheen's facial features, there aren't a lot of them. 2 eyes, a mouth, a little tongue, and these whiskers. Oh, and her hair, you can't see it under her hat, but she has like 3 strands of hair.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I made myself a template of her face. It was actually kind of creepy. There's tons of pictures of you online. You are super famous. For her whiskers, I used a letter I shaped cutter that I had because it was just the right size. For her eyes, I used a piping tip, but for her mouth, I used my template.
She's pretty modest for someone.
She's super modest.
famous.
After meeting her, when I Googled her, I was like, wow, she acts totally normal. She barely said anything. I also cut out her 2 stripes. These are like really perfect stripes for a cat. Am I wrong? Before making her limbs and her tail, I'm going to add a little bit of CMC to the same gray fondant that I covered her with. And this is just because I need the fondant to be a little stiffer and hold up since I'm going to attach these pieces to her body. Cut them at an even length, made sure that they were identical. So first I made her little arms, then I made her little legs. For the tail, I rolled out a thicker tube, a bit longer, cut it to the right length, and now I need to add stripes to that tail. For the stripes, I'm using a darker gray, cut the stripes, and then I just glue them onto my tail. I wanna make sure that the seams of the stripes land where I know they'll be hidden. Does that make sense? So like, see her tail?
Yeah.
So I made sure that the seams of the stripes that I wrapped around were underneath so we wouldn't see it.
I see. I see. She's a little insecure about
Her tail seams, yes, she told me. We had a long talk. I glued the stripes onto her tail with a little bit of clear piping gel. It's time to add all of the pieces to this now sort of gray shaped cake and turn it into Pusheen. Not getting enough cake in your life? Join our Cake Tea Club now, and this month you'll receive this Cake Please hoodie. We'll solve that problem right away. And if that doesn't happen, at least you'll be warm and cozy. So head to howtocakeit.com, join our Cake Tea Club, and you'll get a different t-shirt or hoodie every single month. I used a strip cutter, a really small strip cutter I have, to cut out her 3 exact strands.
They really didn't put the work in the eyes, eh? It's just dots. There's like no catch light, no pupil.
There's no catch light! This might be one of the only characters I've made that has no catch light.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, no, there's no catch light. I'm sorry, Pusheen. I'm sorry. If it was up to me, you would have catch lights.
Yeah.
For the mini cake that I'm making for Pusheen, I've baked a small round blue and pink cake. I've leveled them, cut them into 4 circular layers with a circle cutter. For my filling, I'm using a scalloped round cutter to cut out 8 circles of fondant, sandwiching the fondant together and then sandwiching that fondant between my cake layers, alternating the color. I used piping gel to glue it all together. And to decorate the top of this cake, I've added some white dragées every second scallop and a gold candle. Now I'm gonna place this little cake in front of Pusheen, and together we're gonna make a wish. Pusheen says she wishes that you would subscribe to How to Cake It.
No, does she know?
She does. That's so kind of you. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you next week, and don't forget to check out the tropical luau sweet table and the giant mug of hot chocolate. Pusheen, 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 come on, say bye. She's silent. Bye.